So welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how you can go about adding sparklines to your data within an Excel sheet or within a spreadsheet program in general. Now, in spreadsheets, the sparklines are used to add some visual representation to your data. They provide you with this concise way to see some trend or pattern in the data that you are affording to your audience, and then that in essence allows you to quickly analyze, or allows the audience to quickly analyze and understand the overall direction and performance of the data that you've provided, especially when the data is complex or will take some time to decipher as that audience goes through everything that you have provided here. If it is complex or it needs charts, the sparklines give you a real and meaningful way of representing that data for the audience quite quickly in specific cells. All right, so if you are analyzing my example sheet here, I have several regions, and just for example purposes, each region is selling a specific amount of units every single month, right? And so I'd like to essentially be able to showcase how each region is doing from month to month. Note that I could have had region 1 here in B4, and then I could have January, February, March going across in each column so that you could analyze it that way. It really does not matter, but how you want to showcase the data in terms of implementing sparklines might also be critical. So the way in which you would go about it is, I'm going to start by entering sparklines in K3, and I'm going to my insert tab, and of course I'm currently in editing mode, so you will find that everything here is grayed out. I can't click on anything at all, so be careful about that when you're editing in a spreadsheet program. If you're in editing mode, I can't do anything within the cell itself related to the options here from the ribbon. So I'm going to hit enter to get out of editing mode, and from here we should now be able to see that we can click on the different options. Now normally persons include charts to represent this type of data, but for our purposes we're going to do the sparklines because that presents us a feasible and efficient way of including a quick chart in the cell representing the row that that sparkline is in. So I'm going to start with, well, it's probably more prudent to use a line sparkline here. So in order to get here, I went to my insert tab, I found my sparklines group, and then the line sparkline is the one that I would need. Depending on how your ribbon is set up, you might find that you don't see the name of the sparkline that you're looking for, but if you scroll over the options that are within the sparklines group, then you will find the name pops up along with a quick description of the type of sparkline that you are included. So you could always scroll over each option to see what that option is. If it is only the thumbnail that they're giving you here, a small picture representing the option, and then from there you'll get that pop-up option. Now the line sparkline is used to depict some trend of data over time, and they're often used to track things like stock prices, sales figures, figures like I have here, how many units are being sold, any type of data that will change over time, right? So we'll find that the data here changes from region to region, or we might find that the data changes from month to month, and so the sparkline will essentially afford us the means of visualizing, seeing that representation of data. All right, so in order to do that, the easiest way for me in Excel is to just highlight the section where we want to include the sparklines. So I'm starting from K4 in my sheet. I'll select once and simply drag down to select that region. You don't want to double click. If you double click, you're in editing mode once more, and then that will present some issues. So you want to click once on the section that you want, and with that click selected, drag all the way down. If you make a mistake, just click anywhere on the sheet and then start once more. I'm going to jump back to my Sparklines. I'm going to click on line here, and I get the pop-up applet asking me where the Excel should be taking the data from, right? It has already populated the section that the Sparklines will be inserted. That's the location range, and it populated that because I had it highlighted here. The data range is essentially where it should be taking the data from. So I'm going to click on the arrow here, and my data range is going to be the range that includes the actual data. So inside K4, for example, it is going to include data from C4 through J4. If I hold the click, I haven't let go of that click yet, and scroll down one space to C5 to J5, that will now be represented in K5. And I'm going to keep that progression going and then let go when I have the actual data range that I want to include for my Sparklines, and here I will hit OK. And just like that, Excel is now showing how the data is being represented from region to region. So for purposes here, I can now tell how the regions are performing over time. Note that because you've now included the Sparkline, you now have a Sparkline tab as well that allows you to edit the Sparkline for even more visual representation. For example, you could choose to show the high points on your Sparkline. You could also choose to show your low points. You could choose to show first and last points, and so forth and so on. And you can choose to change your Sparkline color to a color that matches the theme of your document or your company, or your specific endeavor, and so forth and so on. All right, now you could also change this to a column Sparkline if that is more appropriate for your data. The column Sparklines are normally used to compare values across different categories or groups. So they're helpful in visually comparing data sets and identifying the relative highs and lows within that particular sheet. So for instance, if you have a table of quarterly revenue for different product categories, you can then add a column Sparkline to quickly compare the performance of each category and then identify the lowest and the highest values. The win-loss is this is a specialized type of column Sparkline, and you'll note that it looks like columns here. It doesn't represent our data well because our purposes here are a little bit different, but it's normally used to track the wins and the losses, hence the name, or positive and negative outcomes, right? So they're commonly used in sports analysis, for example, or financial analysis, for example. If you have a table of a sports team's performance over an entire season, you can add the win-loss Sparklines to visualize those wins and the losses and then quickly determine their overall success. All right, so the Sparkline types provide a really compact and informative way, in my opinion, to analyze data trends and patterns, as opposed to using a chart that isn't really displayed in a cell. So by incorporating the Sparkline into the Excel worksheet or into your report, you save time and you gain valuable insight as well into your data without the need of incorporating some complex chart or some extensive data analysis.